I've just read a report, and yes, sadly, this is going on, but some Christian churches, particularly in Ireland, have still continued to fellowship with this lockdown. And police have gone in and tried to warn them and tried to stop the meetings and so on. Yes, this is going on in Britain and in Ireland because they believe it to be their right to fellowship, to still meet again together because they submit to a higher power. But what came out of this report as well, they were praying for those who are persecuting them, praying God's mercy over the police. And some of the pastors and churches are going to face big fines. That's challenged me as a believer, because that may well happen to us with what's going on now, with these bizarre things that are happening around the world and in this country, and how that they can pass laws so quickly now that are not even debated in Parliament. All of this is quite alarming that's happening, but it shouldn't take us by surprise, because these are the things that are coming up now as the Antichrist is beginning to get that hold. So it shouldn't surprise us. But we may well be facing things like this, and we're going to be put to the test. What is in our heart? What is our attitude? This is our sonship. When we start to understand that God sends rain on the just and on the unjust. You see, God will allow evil at times to prosper for a season, to see if we have a right heart and attitude, or do we want vengeance on our enemy? Do we want to see them suffer? Do we want to see them fall into the hands of an angry God? We can still harbour those attitudes. And we have to really, really be careful with this. And this is why God, I believe, will allow even the unjust to receive blessing for a season, because it's to challenge the church. It's to challenge God's people and to find out what our hearts is, what our attitude is, and so on. God does this, and he can do it because he's sovereign, you see. And you see, it will be a big problem if we are not, as believers, prospering ourselves, because we should. We should be prospering as believers. In other words, all your needs being met as you put first the kingdom of God, his righteousness. That should be happening in the life of a believer. And if those of our enemies are prospering and we're not, then something is very wrong with our walk and our consecration. And God will use that to get our attention, to find out what is going wrong in my life. And very often it's your commitment to Christ, or there's sin that's separating you from the love of God that you're not dealing with. We're entering a time where we're not going to prosper outwardly as we used to. Things are going to rapidly be different and change. So how much more are we dependent then on God blessing us, meeting those needs, paying those bills, and so on, which he says he will do if we put that kingdom first.